Poor boy fixes broken irrigation for millionaire farmer, but when he sees... Tyler James Wilson wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his dirt-stained hand as he stared at the completely stalled irrigation system at Clearwater Farm. At 16, the boy had already learned that when water didn't reach the crops, problems multiplied like weeds in a cornfield. The farmer, Richard Blackwell, walked over to where the young man knelt, inspecting the main pipes. The 62-year-old man wore his signature straw hat, and his eyes carried the worry of someone watching thousands of dollars slip away. With every hour, the irrigation remained broken. "Son, are you sure you can fix this?" asked Blackwell, eyeing the simple tools Tyler had brought in a cloth bag. "Mr. Richard, my mother always said there's no problem without a solution. I just need to understand how this system works," Tyler replied, without lifting his eyes from the pipes. The boy began examining every connection, every valve, every joint of the equipment. There was something familiar about the design, the way the pipes connected, but he couldn't quite place it. Blackwell watched nervously. His tomatoes desperately needed water, and the specialized company wouldn't send a technician until the following week. When he saw Tyler successfully fix the school's water pump, he decided to take a chance on the boy. "Listen, I'll pay you well if you can get this irrigation running by the end of the day," the farmer said, adjusting his hat against the harsh afternoon sun. Tyler nodded and kept working. He removed one of the main control valves and nearly dropped his tool when he saw something that sent chills down his spine. Etched into the metal, slightly faded with time, were the words, "N.W. Wilson, Hydraulic Systems." His heart raced. N.W. Wilson, Nathan Wilson, his father. "Mr. Richard," Tyler called, trying to keep his voice steady. "Where did this irrigation system come from?" Blackwell stepped closer and looked at the piece in the boy's hand. His expression changed instantly, as if he'd seen a ghost. That's very old, son. It was already here when I bought the farm. But there's a signature here, N.W. Wilson. Do you know that name?" The farmer took the valve from Tyler's hands and examined the engraving. His fingers trembled slightly. "Never heard of him," he replied quickly, handing it back. "Let's focus on the repair." Tyler knew the man was lying. In his 16 years of life, he had asked his mother, Catherine, countless questions about his father. She always said Nathan was a smart man who worked with water systems, but had left when Tyler was little to try his luck elsewhere. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Continuing the repair, Tyler discovered the entire system bore the same signature. It wasn't just one valve, it was the whole design. Every major piece had been created and installed by his father. "Mr. Richard, are you sure you don't know N.W. Wilson?" the boy pressed. "Son, did you come here to fix things or ask questions?" Blackwell snapped, visibly uneasy. Tyler kept working, but his mind raced. How was it possible that the most sophisticated irrigation system in the region had been built by his father? And why did the farmer seem so bothered by the questions? When he opened one of the pump's main compartments, Tyler found something that took his breath away. Inside a plastic envelope, protected from moisture, were documents. His hand shook as he pulled out the papers. "Hey, that's mine," shouted Blackwell, trying to grab the documents, but Tyler was faster. He stepped back a few paces and opened the envelope. Inside were contracts, technical plans, and a letter, all signed by Nathan Wilson. "These documents are about my father," said Tyler, his voice choked. "Your father," Blackwell swallowed hard. "Nathan Wilson. That's my father. He disappeared when I was little." The farmer stopped trying to take the papers. His face turned pale and he leaned against one of the irrigation structures. "You're Nate's son?" he asked, as if speaking to a ghost. "You knew him?" Before Blackwell could answer, a woman's voice called from the porch of the main house. "Richard, who is that boy?" It was Susan Blackwell, the farmer's wife, a 58-year-old woman with graying hair tied in a simple bun, walking toward them with hurried steps. "Just a kid who came to fix the irrigation, Susan. Go back inside," replied Blackwell, clearly trying to avoid the conversation, but Susan had already come close enough to see the documents in Tyler's hand. "My God, Richard, you can't be serious," she murmured, recognizing the papers. "What are you talking about?" asked Tyler, looking between the couple. Susan stared at her husband with desperation. "Richard, you promised this would never be a problem again." "Susan, shut your mouth," the farmer snapped. "No, Richard. It's long past time to do the right thing." She turned to Tyler. "Young man, what's your full name?" "Tyler James Wilson." Susan brought a hand to her chest and took a deep breath. "You have his eyes, and the same way of tilting your head when you're focused." "You knew my father?" "Yes, I did. Your father worked here at the farm for over 10 years. He built this entire irrigation system." Blackwell grabbed his wife's arm. "Susan, you don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do, Richard. And so do you. Nate was our partner. He created the most efficient irrigation system in the entire region. We were supposed to split the profits 50-50. Tyler felt his legs go weak. His father had been partners with the richest man in town. How was that possible? Then where is he? Why did he leave? Susan glared at her husband with anger in her eyes. "Because your husband cheated him. Because when the system started working and the farm prospered, Richard changed his mind about the partnership." "That's not true," Blackwell shouted. "I paid him everything I owed." "Lies," Susan shot back. "You offered him peanuts and said if he didn't take it, he'd lose everything anyway." Tyler felt the world spinning. All the hardships he and his mother had endured for years, living in a modest house on the outskirts of town, working odd jobs to make ends meet. Meanwhile, the system his father created was making a fortune for another family. "Where are the partnership documents?" asked Tyler. "Your father took everything when he left," Blackwell replied quickly. "He took nothing, Richard." Susan was clearly tired of the lies. "You burned it all when he left town." "Susan!" "Enough, Richard. This boy deserves the truth. Your father fought for months for his rights. He even sought help. But you convinced everyone he'd sold his share." Tyler examined the documents he'd found again. Among them was a letter. With trembling hands, he began to read. "Susan, if anything happens to me, give these documents to my family. The irrigation project is registered in my name and all the original calculations are here. Richard thinks he can fool me, but I was always smarter. I kept copies of everything." The letter was from 10 years ago, exactly when his father had disappeared. "My father knew something was going to happen," said Tyler, showing the letter to Susan. She read it quickly, and her tears began to fall. "Nate was always very sharp. He suspected your husband would try something. Why did you never give this letter to my family? Because I didn't know where you lived. Your father didn't tell anyone where he was going after he left here." Blackwell, seeing the situation slipping out of control, played his last card. "Kid, you want money, is that it? I'll pay you $15,000 to forget this whole thing and walk away." "Richard," Susan shouted, horrified. "I don't want your dirty money," Tyler replied, with a rage he'd never felt before. "I want justice." "Justice?" Blackwell laughed bitterly. "You're just a poor boy with no education, no nothing. Who's going to believe your word over mine?" That's when Tyler heard voices approaching. Some of the farm workers had stopped to see what was happening. Among them, he recognized Margaret, a 70-year-old woman who had worked cleaning the main house for over 20 years. "Margaret," Tyler called, "did you know my father, Nathan Wilson?" The elderly woman stepped closer, studied the boy's face, and her expression brightened. "Of course I knew him. You look just like him at your age. Nate was a good man, hard-working. He's the one who built all this irrigation here." "And do you know why he left?" Margaret gave Blackwell a disapproving look. "I do, because some people don't keep their promises. Your father created a system that made this farm one of the most prosperous in the area. But when it came time to share the profits—" "Margaret, you don't know anything," Blackwell interrupted. "I don't know anything. Boss, I cleaned your office every day. I saw the arguments, heard the fights. Nate always left here sad, always worried." Other workers began to speak up. Frank Miller, who handled general maintenance on the farm, stepped forward. "It's true, your father was an honest man. He always treated us well, unlike some around here," he said, giving Blackwell a pointed look. "You don't know anything," the farmer exploded. "I paid him what he deserved." "Boss," Margaret said with the courage only age and experience bring, "I saw you burning papers in the backyard after Nate left. Important documents. You thought no one saw, but I did." Tyler felt a mix of anger and relief. Finally, there were people who could confirm his story. He wasn't alone in this fight. Susan approached her husband. "Richard, it's time to do the right thing. This boy spent his whole life without a father because of your choices." "He didn't spend his life without a father. Nate could have stayed. He chose to leave. After you humiliated and cheated him." Susan was clearly tired of years of silence. Tyler carefully stored the documents in a plastic bag he'd brought. "Mr. Blackwell, I'll finish fixing the irrigation because that's what I came here to do. But after that, I'm going to find my father, and I'll show him these documents." "Your father could be anywhere in the world. How will you find him?" "If I have to, I'll search my whole life." Margaret stepped closer to Tyler. "Son, your father didn't go far. He's in Columbus working for an irrigation company at a small farmers' cooperative." Tyler's heart nearly stopped. "How do you know?" "Because every now and then, he sends letters to some friends here, asking about you and your mother. He never forgot you." Blackwell visibly paled at this news. "Margaret, why did you never tell me this?" "Because you never asked. And because after what you did to him, I thought it best not to say anything." Tyler felt tears welling up in his eyes. His father was alive, he was nearby, and he had never forgotten his family. "Mrs. Margaret, do you have his address?" "I do, son. When we finish here, I'll give it to you." Susan stepped closer to Tyler. "Son, I'm so sorry for what happened. I should have done something back then, but—" "You can do something now," Tyler interrupted. "You can help me find my father and settle this." Blackwell realized he was losing control of everything. "I won't accept blackmail from anyone. This farm is mine." "No one's talking about taking your farm, Mr. Richard," Tyler said, with a maturity that surprised everyone. "But my father deserves what's rightfully his." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Tyler finished repairing the irrigation system with shaky hands, but unwavering determination. The system sprang back to life, spraying crystal-clear water over the crops. It was impossible not to feel pride seeing his father's work functioning so well after all these years. "The system's ready," Tyler announced, wiping his hands on his shirt. Blackwell tested all the valves and had to admit the boy had done a perfect job. "How much do I owe you for the repair?" "Nothing. Consider it a gift for the chance to see my father's work." Susan took her husband by the arm. "Richard, let's go home. We need to talk." Mrs. Margaret waited for the couple to leave before approaching Tyler. "Son, come with me. I'll give you your father's address. And there's something else you need to know." They walked to the small house where the employee lived at the back of the property. Margaret pulled a shoebox from under the bed and took out several letters. "Your father writes to me from time to time. In the last letter, he said he'd created an irrigation system helping dozens of small farmers in Columbus. He's using even more advanced technology than here." Tyler held one of the letters carefully. "Can I read it?" "Of course, son." The letter was recent, just 3 months old. Nathan wrote about his life in the neighboring town, how he'd rebuilt his career helping small farmers, and how he thought every day about the family he'd left behind. "Margaret, not a day goes by that I don't think about Tyler and Catherine. I know I made the hardest decision of my life by leaving, but I couldn't stay in a town where my word meant nothing. I hope one day my son understands I didn't abandon them. I just needed to go where I could work with dignity." Tyler had to stop reading. The tears blurred the words. "Mrs. Margaret, my father never abandoned us. He was just trying to protect his dignity." "I always knew that, son. Nate is a man of principle. He left here hurt but not broken. Then why didn't he send us letters?" "Because he was afraid you wouldn't want anything to do with him. Men have that foolish pride, son." Tyler folded the letter carefully and tucked it into his pocket. "Mrs. Margaret, I'm going to Columbus tomorrow. How will you manage that? It's far, and it's not cheap. I'll figure it out, no matter what. The elderly woman smiled and picked up an envelope set apart from the others. You won't need to, son. Your father sent money in the last letter. Said it was to help you and your mother if you ever needed it. I've been waiting for the right time to give it to you. Tyler opened the envelope and found $500, a significant amount for his family. He sends money even without knowing if you'll get it. He does. Every month. He always says it's better to try to help than to do nothing. Tyler's heart was full of conflicting emotions. Anger for having been without his father for so long, relief to know he was okay, sadness at realizing how much suffering could have been avoided. Miss Margaret, do you think my father will want to see me? Son, your father will cry with joy when he sees you. I'm sure of it. Tyler left the farm with a strange feeling. He had gone there to fix an irrigation system and ended up discovering the truth about his father's disappearance, but there was still much to resolve. At home, he told his mother, Catherine, everything. The 42-year-old woman who worked as a seamstress to support the family listened to the whole story in silence. When Tyler finished, she cried for several minutes. Mom, did you know anything? I knew your father had left town because of work problems, but he never told me details, said it was better I didn't know. And why didn't you ever try to look for him? Catherine took a deep breath. Because he asked me not to, said when he was able, he'd come back or send word. I respected his decision. But Mom, we struggled all these years. We did, son, but we also learned to be strong and independent. And your father was sending money, even if we didn't know it. Tyler showed his mother the envelope with the money. We're going to Columbus tomorrow, Mom. It's time for our family to be together again. Catherine hesitated. Son, what if your father doesn't want to come back? What if he's already built a new life there? Then at least we'll know the truth, and he'll know we never stopped loving him. That night, Tyler barely slept. His mind raced with plans, expectations, and fears. What would it be like to see his father after 10 years? Would he look different? Would he still care for his family? The next morning, mother and son took the first bus to Columbus. The address Miss Margaret had given them was in a modest neighborhood, at an agricultural cooperative called United Earth. When they arrived, they found a simple but tidy office. A young receptionist greeted them warmly. Are you looking for Mr. Nathan Wilson? He's in the experimental area, testing a new drip irrigation system. I'll call him. Tyler and Catherine waited in a small room decorated with photos of crops and productivity certificates. Within minutes, they heard footsteps approaching. When Nathan entered the room, time seemed to stand still. The 45-year-old man had aged, with more gray hair and wrinkles, but his eyes were the same ones Tyler remembered from childhood. Catherine? Tyler? He whispered, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Hi, Dad, Tyler said, his voice breaking. Nathan stepped forward slowly, as if afraid it was just a dream. When he finally hugged his son, they both began to cry. My boy, how you've grown, how did you find me? Tyler told the whole story, from fixing the irrigation at Clearwater Farm to discovering the documents and Miss Margaret's revelations. Nathan listened quietly, nodding occasionally. I always knew the truth would come out one day, he finally said, but I never imagined it would be through you, son. Dad, why didn't you ever send us letters? Nathan sighed deeply. Because I was ashamed, Tyler. Ashamed of being fooled. Ashamed of not being able to fight for my rights. Ashamed of leaving town like a failure. But you weren't a failure. You were just a victim of injustice. That's easy to say now, son. But at the time I felt like a failure. I thought you'd be better off without me. Catherine, who had been silent until then, moved closer to her husband. Nathan, you were a fool to think that. We were never better off without you. We were incomplete. Catherine, no, now you're going to listen to me. For these 10 years, I raised our son alone, worked 2 jobs to pay the bills, and never let him doubt the love you had for us. Because I always knew you'd come back when you could. Nathan Wilson hugged his wife, and they stayed like that for several minutes, crying and forgiving each other for the lost years. And now, Dad, what are we going to do? Asked Tyler. Now, son, we're going to make things right, but the right way. Nathan explained that during his years in Columbus, he had specialized further in irrigation systems. He had developed innovative technologies that were revolutionizing agriculture in the region. He had registered patents, contracts with cooperatives, and a solid reputation. "Son, I have lawyers here who can help us. We're going back to our town and settling this with Blackwell once and for all." "But Dad, what if he denies everything? What if he says the documents are fake?" "Tyler, I kept copies of everything all these years, original blueprints, contracts, receipts for materials purchased. Blackwell may have burned the documents he had, but he couldn't burn my memory or my records." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. The next day, the Wilson family returned to their hometown. Nathan had brought a folder with all the documents proving his involvement in creating the irrigation system at Clearwater Farm. He also brought Dr. Robert Mendez, a lawyer specializing in inventors' rights. When they arrived at the farm, they found Blackwell talking to Susan on the porch of the main house. The farmer paled when he saw Nathan. "Good morning, Richard," Nathan greeted, with a calmness that surprised everyone. Nate Wilson? What are you doing here?" "I came to settle an old debt, one that should have been resolved 10 years ago." Susan approached, visibly emotional. "Nathan, I'm so sorry for what happened. I should have done something." "Susan, you weren't obligated to do anything. The responsibility was entirely your husband's." Dr. Robert introduced himself and explained that he was representing Nathan's interests regarding the rights to the irrigation system. "Mr. Blackwell, my client has documentation proving he was the co-creator of the irrigation system installed on this property. We'd like to resolve this matter amicably." Blackwell tried to appear confident. "I don't know what you're talking about. I bought this farm with the system already installed. I never had a partnership with anyone." Nathan opened his folder and pulled out a document. "Richard, this is the partnership agreement we signed in 2014. You were responsible for finances and marketing. I was responsible for designing and maintaining the system. Profits were to be split 50-50. "That's fake. I never signed that." Dr. Robert smiled calmly. "Mr. Blackwell, this document was notarized. We also have invoices for all materials purchased for the system's construction, all under the partnership's name. And we have the original technical blueprint signed by my client." Blackwell began to look visibly nervous. "Even if this were true, it's been too long. The statute of limitations applies." "Actually, it doesn't," the lawyer explained. "Technical copyrights don't expire that way. Moreover, we have evidence that there was bad faith in the dissolution of the partnership." Susan approached her husband. "Richard, please tell the truth. We've lied for too long." "Susan, stay out of this." "I will not stay out of it." She turned to Nathan. "Nathan, I want to share everything I know. I want this story to end today." Susan revealed she had witnessed several arguments between her husband and Nathan. She confirmed that Blackwell had offered a very low amount for Nathan's share in the partnership, claiming the system wasn't working well. When Nathan refused, Blackwell threatened to sue him for abandoning the partnership. "He said he had expensive lawyers and that you'd never be able to prove anything," Susan said, looking at her husband with disdain. "Susan, have you lost your mind?" Blackwell shouted. "No, Richard. I was the one who lost my mind these past 10 years, watching you prosper from another man's work while his family struggled." Nathan looked at her with gratitude. "Susan, I understand your position back then. You couldn't have known everything." "I did know, Nathan. I knew and chose to stay silent. It's haunted me for years." Dr. Robertson took the moment to present a proposal. "Mr. Blackwell, considering all the evidence we have, my client is willing to accept a settlement. He doesn't want to take your farm or harm your family. He just wants what's owed to him for the years his technology was used." "And what exactly do you want?" Nathan stepped forward. "Richard, I want public recognition as the co-creator of the system. I want compensation for the years my technology was used, and I want a real partnership for future system improvements." "That's outrageous." "Actually," Dr. Robertson interjected, "given the profits this farm has made over the last 10 years, largely due to the efficient irrigation system, The proposal is quite generous. Tyler, who had watched the discussion silently, stepped closer. Mr. Blackwell, my father isn't here to destroy anyone. He just wants justice. And what's to stop you from demanding more money later? Nathan sighed. Richard, I have a thriving business in Columbus. I don't need your money to survive. I need your honesty to live in peace. Susan took her husband's arm. Richard, accept the deal. It's the right thing to do. Blackwell fell silent for several minutes, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh. Fine, let's discuss the terms. The negotiations lasted the rest of the afternoon. In the end, it was agreed that Nathan would receive compensation of $200,000 for the years his technology was used without recognition. Additionally, he would be hired as a technical consultant for the farm, with a monthly salary and a share in future profits. More important than the money, Nathan gained public acknowledgement of his creation. Blackwell committed to officially registering the co-authorship of the irrigation system. There's one more thing, Nathan said as the documents were being signed. I want my son trained to continue the work. He has a natural talent for it. Tyler was surprised by the proposal. Dad, I haven't even finished school yet. You will, son, and you'll take a technical course in irrigation. Your education will be an investment from the partnership. Blackwell agreed to the terms, visibly relieved to resolve the situation without further legal complications. When everything was finalized, Susan approached Nathan. Nathan, I want to publicly apologize for what happened. I should have done the right thing 10 years ago. Susan, the past is behind us. What matters is that everything is settled now. And will you be returning to the city? Nathan looked at his wife and son. Yes, we will. It's time to rebuild our lives where they were always meant to be. In the months that followed, many things changed for the Wilson family. Nathan closed his business in Columbus and returned home. With the settlement money, they bought a larger, more comfortable house. Tyler enrolled in a technical school for agriculture and irrigation, encouraged by his father to specialize in the field. The boy clearly had inherited his father's talent for hydraulic systems. Nathan began working not just at Clearwater Farm, but also at other properties in the region. His reputation grew quickly, and soon he had more work than he could handle. The relationship between Nathan and Richard didn't become a friendship, but it evolved into mutual respect. The farmer publicly acknowledged the value of Nathan's work, and his farm became a model for efficient irrigation. Susan and Nathan developed a genuine friendship. She always referred to him as the man who saved our agriculture, and Nathan saw her as someone who had the courage to do the right thing, even if belatedly. 6 months after their reunion, Tyler had become a capable assistant to his father. Together, they made improvements to the original system that further increased irrigation efficiency. One day, while testing a new valve they had created, Nathan looked at his son with pride. Tyler, do you realize this system won't just benefit one farm but the entire region? How so, Dad? Because we're going to teach the technology to other small farmers. We'll create a technical cooperative to democratize access to efficient irrigation. Nathan's idea was ambitious. He wanted to establish a training center where small farmers could learn to install and maintain low-cost irrigation systems. Dad, won't that hurt our business? Tyler, a business built on hiding knowledge isn't sustainable. Our edge will always be staying one step ahead, creating new things. The training center project took shape when Nathan secured support from the city council and local businesses. Even Richard contributed equipment for the testing lab. Susan suggested naming the center after Nathan, but he refused. The center will be called Waters of Hope, because that's what we're bringing people, hope for better agriculture. The center's opening took place exactly 1 year after the Wilson family's reunion. Hundreds attended, including small farmers from across the region. During the ceremony, Nathan gave an emotional speech about the importance of cooperation in farming. He spoke about how the years of separation had taught him that individual success means nothing if not shared with loved ones. My friends, he said, looking at Catherine and Tyler in the front row, I've learned that irrigation isn't just about bringing water to crops. It's about creating life where there was once dryness. And sometimes in life we need to find new water sources to nourish our dreams. Tyler, now 17 and already considered a promising young man in irrigation, stood to speak. I want to thank everyone who supported us on this journey, especially Mrs. Margaret, who kept my father's letters for years, Mrs. Susan, who had the courage to speak the truth, and Mr. Richard, who recognized his mistakes and made them right. The young man's speech moved the audience. Many remembered him as just a poor boy doing odd jobs around town, and now they saw him as a well-spoken, promising young man. Richard, present at the ceremony, approached Nathan at the end of the event. Nathan, I want to apologize to you once again, and I want to say I admire the man you've become. Richard, we both made mistakes, just in different ways. You were wrong out of greed, I was wrong out of pride. What matters is that we learned from them. What do you say about expanding our partnership? I have capital and you have the know-how. Together we could take this technology to other regions. Nathan Wilson smiled. Let's talk about it, but this time as real partners, with clear contracts and defined goals. Over the next 2 years, the partnership between Nathan Wilson and Blackwell proved extremely successful. They developed irrigation systems installed on dozens of rural properties, always committed to training local farmers in maintenance and operation. Tyler graduated as an irrigation technician with the highest marks in his class. By 19, he was already considered a promising specialist, often invited to give talks in other towns. The Waters of Hope Center became a regional reference. Farmers traveled from distant towns to attend the courses. The project even caught the attention of universities, which began sending students for internships. One afternoon, as Nathan and Tyler worked on a new invention, a solar-powered irrigation system, Catherine arrived at the lab with unexpected news. Nathan, a letter came from the capital. It's from the Department of Agriculture. Nathan opened the letter curiously. It was an invitation to present his work at a national conference on sustainable irrigation. Dad, this is amazing, Tyler celebrated. It is, son. But you know what's even more amazing? That we got here together, as a family. Nathan looked out the lab window at the lush fields of the region. Irrigation systems worked perfectly, bringing life to every square foot of land. Small farmers who once relied only on rain now had independence and productivity. Tyler, do you remember the day you went to fix the irrigation at Blackwell's farm? How could I forget, Dad? That was the day that changed our lives. Actually, son, that was the day our lives got back on the right track, because a united family isn't an accident of fate. It's built every day with hard work, honesty, and forgiveness. Catherine stepped closer and hugged them both. Now, how about you two stop philosophizing and come to dinner? I made that apple pie you love. Father and son laughed and put away their tools. Another workday had ended, but the fruits of their labor would keep benefiting the region for generations. As they walked toward the house, Nathan paused to watch the irrigation system running in their garden. It was a miniature version of what they installed on farms, but to him, it meant much more than technology. It stood for perseverance, for not giving up on dreams, even when all seems lost. It stood for the importance of family and community, and most of all, it was proof that justice, even if delayed, always comes to those who never stop fighting for it. That evening at dinner, Tyler asked a question that had been on his mind for months. Dad, do you regret leaving back then? Nathan thought for a moment before answering. Tyler, I regret being away from you all, but I don't regret fighting for my dignity. Sometimes, son, you need to step away from what you love temporarily so you can come back as a better person. And what if I'd never gone to fix that irrigation? If we'd never found out the truth? Son, I believe the truth always finds a way to come out. Maybe not that day, maybe not through you, but sooner or later it would have. Catherine smiled at her husband. Nathan, do you think everything happened the way it was supposed to? Catherine asked. Nathan, I think life gave us a second chance, Tyler replied. And a second chance is a gift not everyone receives. We have to make the most of it. Tyler looked at his parents and felt overwhelming gratitude. At 17, he had already learned lessons about justice, perseverance, and family. Lessons some people spend a lifetime trying to understand. Dad, Mum, I promise I'll do my part, so our family never gets separated again." "Son," Nathan Wilson said, taking the boy's hand, "family isn't separated by distance. Family falls apart when they stop fighting for their values, and our family has proven we know how to fight." 6 months after that conversation, something unexpected happened. Tyler was selected to represent the United States at an international congress for young innovators in agriculture, to be held in Chile. The news came on a Tuesday morning with a call from the university that had nominated his work. Nathan answered the phone and could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Tyler, come here, son, you won't believe this." When Tyler heard about the selection, he stayed silent for several minutes. It would be his first time leaving the country, and he'd be presenting a project he'd developed alongside his father. "Dad, is this for real? I'm representing the United States?" "It's real, son. Your sustainable irrigation project for small farms was named one of the most innovative in South America." Catherine hugged her son with tears in her eyes. "Tyler, I always knew you'd go far, but I never imagined it'd be this far. Mom, I'm only going because I learned everything from Dad. This success belongs to our whole family." Preparations for the trip were intense. Tyler had to improve his Spanish, prepare detailed presentations, and, most of all, overcome his own self-doubt. "Dad, what if I embarrass myself there? What if my project isn't as good as I think?" Nathan sat with his son in the lab, surrounded by the equipment they'd built together. "Tyler, do you know what my biggest mistake was 10 years ago? Trusting Blackwell without documenting everything. No, son. My biggest mistake was doubting the value of my own work. I let other people convince me I didn't deserve recognition. Don't make the same mistake." "But what if the other projects are better?" "If they are, you'll learn from them. If they aren't, you'll teach the others. Either way, you'll grow." The talk with his father gave Tyler the confidence he needed. The following week, he flew to Santiago, Chile, carrying not just his projects but also the hopes of a family that had learned to cherish every opportunity. The Congress was an absolute success for Tyler. His low-cost irrigation system for family farms caught the attention of experts from multiple countries. He received offers from universities to continue his studies and even job proposals. But the biggest surprise came on the event's final day. Tyler was invited to join an international program for young leaders in sustainable agriculture, which included a scholarship to one of the top universities in the field. When he returned to the United States, Tyler was overjoyed but conflicted. The opportunities abroad were tempting, but they would mean being apart from his family again. "Dad, I don't know what to do. The opportunities are amazing, but I don't want to make the same mistake you did years ago." Nathan smiled wisely. "Tyler, the situation is completely different. I left here running from a problem. You'd be leaving here chasing a dream. They're opposites. But what about you? What about our company, the training center? Son, all of that will still be here. And when you return, with even more knowledge, all of this will get even better." Catherine supported her husband's decision. "Tyler, your father and I lost 10 years together because of pride and injustice. We won't let you miss opportunities because of fear." After many family discussions, Tyler decided to accept the scholarship. He would leave at the beginning of the following year to study irrigation engineering at a university in Canada. The farewell was emotional, but different from the separation the family had experienced years before. This time, everyone knew it was temporary, that there was a clear purpose, and that the love between them was strong enough to withstand the distance. "Son," said Nathan at the airport, "you're taking with you everything we've learned together, and when you return, you'll bring new knowledge to share with us. Dad, I promise I'll make you proud of me." "Tyler, we're already proud of you. Now go make the world proud of you too." 2 years passed. Tyler excelled in his studies in Canada, developing innovative projects that caught the attention of the international scientific community. But more important than his academic successes, he stayed in constant contact with his family, sending letters, making video calls, and sharing every discovery. Meanwhile, in the United States, Nathan and Catherine expanded their business. The Waters of Hope Center became a national reference, receiving visitors from across the country. Their partnership with Blackwell grew, but they always maintained the principles of honesty and transparency that had been violated in the past. Susan Blackwell became an active advocate for the Wilson family's social projects. She used her influence in the community to secure support and resources for the training center. "Nathan," she said one day during a board meeting at the center, "I want you to know that helping you has been one of the most rewarding things in my life. Susan, you're not just helping us, you're helping the entire community, and that makes you a special person." Even Blackwell had changed significantly. The man once known for his coldness in business had become an advocate for sustainable farming and ethical business practices. "Nathan," he said during a walk through the fields, "I want to confess something. These last few years working honestly with you have been the most prosperous of my life, and I'm not just talking about money." "How so, Richard?" "I'm talking about peace of mind. Before, I was always afraid my secrets would be exposed. Now, I sleep soundly every night." The conversation between the two men marked a complete transformation in their relationship. From adversaries, they had become true partners and, in a way, friends. When Tyler completed his 2 years of studies in Canada, he received an offer to pursue a doctorate at an even more prestigious university. But this time, his decision was quick and clear. "Dad, Mom, I want to come home. I've learned so much here, but my place is there, working with you and developing our region." Tyler's decision moved the whole family. Nathan knew his son had truly matured when he chose purpose over prestige. Tyler's return to the United States was celebrated by the entire community. The 21-year-old came back not just with a degree from a Canadian university, but with international experience and a broader vision for sustainable farming. On his first day back in the lab, father and son sat down to plan their next projects. "Tyler, how about we start with that idea you emailed, the smart irrigation system?" "Dad, I want to implement that technology here first, then take it to other regions. I want our town to be the pioneer." "And how do you imagine doing that?" Tyler opened a notebook filled with notes and sketches. "Dad, during my studies in Canada, I developed a system that uses sensors to monitor soil moisture in real time. Irrigation happens automatically only when needed, saving up to 40% of the water." Nathan examined the designs with admiration. "Son, this is revolutionary, but it must be expensive to implement." That's where our experience with social projects comes in. We'll create versions adapted to different economic realities, from sophisticated systems for large properties to simplified ones for family farms. Tyler's idea proved both viable and innovative. Within 6 months, they had developed 3 different versions of the system, one for large farms, one for medium producers, and one for small family farmers. The launch of the new systems took place at a grand celebration at Blackwell's farm, which had become the symbolic place where it all began. Hundreds of people attended, including journalists and government representatives. During the presentation, Tyler made sure to share the entire family story, from the separation to the reunion, through the struggles and triumphs. "My friends," he said, looking at his father in the audience, "this technology was born not just from technical knowledge, but from family values. It came from the understanding that innovation without social purpose is meaningless." His speech moved the crowd. Many remembered the Wilson family's story and saw in that moment proof that persistence and honesty are always rewarded. Nathan stepped onto the stage to speak beside his son. "A few years ago, I was a bitter man who had lost everything by trusting the wrong word. Today, I'm a fulfilled man who regained everything because I never gave up on the right values." The presentation was an absolute success. Orders for the new system began pouring in from across the country. Within months, the Wilson family's company became one of the most respected in the U.S. irrigation sector. But what made Nathan proudest wasn't the commercial success. It was seeing his son using his knowledge to help the community, especially small farmers who needed affordable technology the most. "Tyler," he said one afternoon as they watched a small farmer installing the basic irrigation system in his garden, "do you know the difference between being successful and being fulfilled?" "What is it, Dad?" "Success is when you achieve your goals. Fulfillment is when your goals reach other people. Tyler smiled and hugged his father. Then we're fulfilled, not just successful. Exactly, son. And that's worth more than all the money in the world. That evening, the Wilson family gathered for dinner, as they did every night. Catherine had prepared the men's favorite dish, and conversation flowed naturally between work plans and family matters. "Nathan," Catherine said as she served dinner, "have you ever thought about writing a book telling our story?" "What for, my dear?" "To inspire other families going through hard times, to show there's always a way forward, even when everything seems lost." Tyler supported his mother's idea. "Dad, it really would be meaningful. Our story could help a lot of people." Nathan considered the suggestion. It was true they had been through situations that could serve as an example and inspiration for others. "You know I've never been good with words, right?" "You don't need to be good with words," Catherine said. "You just need to be sincere, and sincerity you have in abundance." Over the following weeks, the book idea took shape. Nathan began writing down his memories, with Tyler's help organizing the thoughts and Catherine's help refining the writing. The book project brought an unexpected consequence. It made the family relive and better process all the emotions from their years of separation. Conversations that had never happened finally came to light. "Dad," said Tyler during one of these talks, "I want you to know I never felt angry at you for leaving." "What do you mean, son?" "I always missed you, always wanted you to come back. But I never felt anger, because Mom always explained that you hadn't abandoned us, that you were fighting for a just cause." Nathan felt tears welling in his eyes. "Tyler, you have no idea how relieved I am to hear that. All these years, my biggest fear was that you hated me." "Dad, it's impossible to hate someone you love, and I've always loved you, even in your absence." Catherine, who had been watching the conversation between father and son, stepped closer to them. "Do you know what the most beautiful thing about this whole story is?" "What, Mom?" "It's that we've proven true love doesn't die. It may lie dormant, it may suffer, it may be tested, but if it's real, it always finds a way to come back stronger." The family embraced in one of those moments that stay forever etched in memory. It wasn't just a hug. It was confirmation that they had overcome every hardship and emerged as an even stronger family. The Wilson family's book was published a year later and became a bestseller. But more important than its commercial success was the impact the story had on thousands of families across the United States. Nathan and Tyler began receiving invitations to speak all over the country. They talked not just about irrigation and farming, but about family values, perseverance, and justice. "My friends," Nathan would say in his speeches, "I'm not here today to talk about technology. I'm here to talk about dignity. Because a family without dignity is like a plant without roots. It might survive for a while, but it will never flourish." The years that followed solidified the Wilson family as a reference not just in irrigation, but in family entrepreneurship and social responsibility. The Waters of Hope Center expanded to other cities, always keeping its focus on democratizing access to agricultural technology. Tyler, now 25, had become a respected engineer internationally. But his choice to keep living in his hometown and working on social projects inspired young people across the country. "Tyler," a journalist once asked in an interview, "don't you ever feel like working for a big multinational company?" "No," he answered without hesitation. "I work for the greatest company in the world, the family business. A company whose goal isn't just profit, but creating positive social impact." Tyler's response went viral on social media and became a symbol for a new generation of conscious entrepreneurs. Nathan, now 50, had become a well-known figure in US agribusiness. But for him, the greatest success wasn't awards or recognition. It was getting to work every day alongside his son and wife, knowing they were building something bigger than themselves. One Sunday afternoon, exactly 5 years after the family's reunion, Nathan was in the backyard adjusting the home irrigation system when Tyler approached. "Dad, do you remember what you said the day we reunited? About irrigation bringing life where there was dryness?" "I do, son. I was thinking our story is exactly that. We brought life to places that were dry, dry of hope, of justice, of family unity." Nathan stopped what he was doing and looked at his son with pride. Tyler, you're right. And do you know the most beautiful thing about all this? What? It's that the irrigation never stops. Every day we keep bringing life to new places. Every day we keep planting hope. Father and son stood in silence for a few minutes, watching the crystal clear water from the irrigation system nourish the plants in the garden. It was a simple, everyday moment, yet filled with symbolism. "Dad," Tyler finally said, "thank you for never giving up on us." "Son," Nathan replied, "thank you for finding me when I was lost." The sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange. The farmlands stretched as far as the eye could see, all benefiting from the irrigation systems developed by the Wilson family. Catherine called the two men to dinner. As always, the table was set with care, and conversation flowed naturally between work matters and plans for the future. "Nathan," Catherine said during dinner, "have you thought about what our next project will be?" "Actually, I have. How about creating a scholarship program for underprivileged youth to study sustainable agriculture?" Tyler smiled. "Dad, that would be amazing. We could train a new generation of irrigation specialists." "Exactly. And when these young people graduate, they'd return to their communities with knowledge and opportunities." The idea took shape as they talked. Within months, the Seeds of the Future program was established, offering full scholarships to low-income students interested in sustainable agriculture. The first group of scholars consisted of 20 young people from different parts of the country. Tyler became the program coordinator, applying all his international experience to create an innovative, hands-on curriculum. "Everyone," he said to the first class of scholars, "you're not just here to learn irrigation techniques. You're here to become agents of change in your communities." Among the students, one young woman stood out to Tyler. Emma Grace, 18, came from a family of small farmers in the Midwestern plains. Her intelligence and determination reminded him of his own journey. "Emma Grace," he said after a practical lesson, "you have a natural talent for this. Have you ever considered specializing in irrigation systems for semi-arid regions?" "Professor Tyler, that's exactly my dream. I want to bring irrigation technology to my region, where drought has always been the biggest challenge for farmers." Emma Grace's dedication inspired Tyler to create a project specifically for semi-arid regions. Together, they developed an irrigation system that made use of even the smallest amount of available water, multiplying agricultural productivity in drought-prone areas. The project was first implemented in Emma Grace's hometown, with astonishing results. Families who once relied solely on rain now had abundant harvests year-round. "Tyler," Nathan said, reviewing the project reports, "you're following exactly the right steps. First, you mastered the technology. Then you found a social purpose for it." "I learned from the best teacher, Dad. Actually, son, now you're teaching new things to the teacher." The relationship between father and son had evolved into a true professional partnership. Nathan remained the creator of innovative solutions, but Tyler had become the expert in applying these technologies for social good. Catherine watched the growth of both men with maternal pride. Her family had not only reunited, but had found a greater purpose that bound them even closer. "Nathan," she said one evening, as they watched Tyler working on a new invention, "do you think our story is over?" "What do you mean, dear?" "I have a feeling there's still so much ahead of us, that our story is only just beginning." Nathan Wilson looked at his wife affectionately. "Catherine, you're right. Our story isn't about a happy ending, it's about a happy new beginning that never ends." And truly, the Wilson family's story continued to unfold each day. New projects, new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference in others' lives. Tyler, at 26, married Emma Grace in a simple yet moving ceremony. Their union symbolized not just the love between two people, but the continuation of a legacy of social work and technological innovation. Nathan, while giving a speech at his son's wedding, summed up everything he had learned over the years. "My dearest, you're starting a journey together. There will be moments of joy and moments of hardship. But always remember, family is like an irrigation system. When it works well, it brings life and prosperity to everyone around." The father's metaphor moved everyone present. Susan Blackwell, who had become a second mother to Tyler, cried throughout the speech. "Nathan," she said after the ceremony, "your family is proof that it's never too late to mend the mistakes of the past." "Susan, we didn't mend the mistakes of the past. We learned from them and built a better future." Nathan's wisdom had solidified over the years. His talks and writings influenced not just agricultural technicians, but families and entrepreneurs from all fields. A year after Tyler's wedding, news arrived that completed the Wilson family's happiness. Emma Grace was pregnant. Nathan and Catherine's first grandchild was on the way. "Dad," Tyler said, announcing the pregnancy, "looks like our family will have a new little irrigator in training." "Son, no matter what profession your child chooses, he'll already be born knowing the most important thing. That family is the foundation of everything." The birth of Nathan Tyler Wilson, named in honor of his grandfather, marked a new chapter in the family's life. Nathan, now a grandfather, discovered a new source of joy and purpose. "Catherine," he said, cradling his grandson, "now I understand why we went through all of that. It was to reach this moment, with our family whole and our legacy secure." "Nathan, do you think our little grandson will carry on the family tradition?" "Catherine, it doesn't matter what profession he chooses. What matters is that he grows up knowing he can make a difference in the world, just like we did." Looking out the hospital window, Nathan saw the fields stretching to the horizon. Irrigation systems worked perfectly, bringing life and prosperity to hundreds of families. It had all started with a poor boy fixing a broken irrigation line. And now, 16 years later, that same family was transforming agriculture across the country. "Tyler," Nathan said, handing the baby to his son. "Now it's your turn to tell him the story. The story of how love and perseverance can overcome any hardship." "I will, Dad. And when he grows up, maybe he'll add a new chapter to our story." "I'm sure he will, son, because true family stories never end. They just renew with each generation." And so, as the sun set over the irrigated fields, 3 generations of the Wilson family gathered to celebrate not just the birth of a new life, but the continuation of a legacy of love, hard work, and social change. The story that had begun with separation and injustice had turned into a tale of reunion and hope. And the best part, this story would keep unfolding, watering new dreams and cultivating new possibilities for generations to come. The end. So, what did you think of this touching story? Do you believe Nathan made the right choice by leaving back then? And how would you react if you found out your hard work was making a fortune for someone else? Leave your honest thoughts in the comments about this family who turned injustice into opportunity. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Don't forget to like the video, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other touching stories like this one.